Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Amy and I love to make videos all about books, so welcome, come on in, grab a cup of tea. Today I am finally getting around to filming my October wrap up as well as my November TBR. So this one should be good, maybe a little bit long, so definitely settle in and let's get on with the video. Starting off with the books which I read last month, which is October. I do have some physical books. Now I only have 4, but I'm just going to go through these and then I'll move on to the ebooks I read. So, starting with the first one, this is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio, and I have seen so many people talking about this book, whether it be on TikTok or YouTube. This is completely worth the hype. I did go over this book in my autumn TBR, which I will link up on the screen, but I thought I would just go over this briefly again. This one is about a boy called Oliver, and he attends this really elite, prestigious university. I think they call it a conservatory. It's not really the type of university where you get an accredited degree, but because the university is so well known, you are almost guaranteed work after attending. And I believe at this school they only study Shakespeare, so we definitely see a lot of tragedy, and the book is a tragedy in general. At the beginning of the book, we are at the present tense, where Oliver is in prison and he is just about to be released. However, the detective who was working on the case wants to know what actually happened, so Oliver and him strike a deal where Oliver makes sure that as long as his friends are protected and there are no repercussions, he will tell him what actually happened. It's pretty obvious that Oliver wasn't the one who murdered his friend, but we do go on a journey and try to figure out who he was protecting by turning himself in. Throughout the book, I definitely tried to guess who the murderer would be, but I had no clue and the twist was really well done. Also, if you're looking for something in the dark academia realm, then this one is a great one, and the descriptions of the setting were just beautiful. There were so many times in this book where I just wanted to reread lines because they were almost like poetic. Oh, I don't know. I wish I could go back and reread this book. No surprise here, but I gave this book 5 stars, and yeah, I definitely agree it is worth the hype. Okay, changing pace completely, the next book which I finished up is Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell and Faith Erin Hicks. So this one was a really wholesome, beautiful autumnal story about Deidre and Josiah. And together they work at the pumpkin patch. They are seasonal friends. They don't ever hang out outside of the pumpkin patch, so they meet up again every year when they're at work. And I don't know, this was such a fun story. There was a lot going on. The illustrations are absolutely beautiful. Hopefully you guys can see this. Because they are both so upset that it's their last year working at the pumpkin patch, they decide that they are going to go on an adventure and make this like the last night to remember. So they do go on a little adventure around the pumpkin patch, and of course things just go wrong, but in the end everything turns out great, and these two are just so incredibly cute. If you are looking for something which is just like a light read, this took me maybe about 40 minutes to read, and obviously admire the pictures, then maybe pick this one up. Of course, I also had to give this one 5 stars. For my third physical read of the month, I did end up getting The Undead Girl Gang by Lily Anderson. This book was so fun. That's the only way I can describe it. The story was really well done, and I just loved the voice of our main character because it's written in first person. Just to give you a rundown on the plot of this book, this is about a girl called Mila and her best friend Riley, and one day Riley commits suicide, or it seems like she commits suicide, and everybody in the school assumes that it's suicide because a few days prior, 2 of the most popular girls also committed suicide, so it almost seems like there's kind of like a suicide pact. And Mila definitely knows that Riley would never commit suicide. There must be some kind of mistake, there must be a murderer, because her best friend would never do that. She was very happy and loved her life. So when Riley was alive, she always did spells. Her and Mila practiced doing witchcraft together, and Mila never really believed in it, although Riley was sure that her spells definitely worked. So in a last-ditch effort, Mila kind of conjures this spell to bring Riley back to life, and you guessed it, it works. However, of course, something goes wrong and she accidentally ends up bringing back to life the 2 popular girls who also committed suicide. And so they all come together and they try and figure out what happened to them, because none of the girls think that they committed suicide. I gave it 4 stars. I definitely recommend this book if you are looking for something which is quite fun. It's not gruesome at all, and it's just very light-hearted, even though there are some very serious topics. I think I steamed through this book in about 2 days, so that was great. Also, there's some really nice representation in this book. I think that Mila is maybe Mexican and she's a curvy girl, and the way that they talk about weight in this book is it's really nice, it's really wholesome. So absolutely pick up this book if you are looking for something with Sabrina the Teenage Witch vibes. You will not be disappointed. And finally, that brings me to the X Hex. So this book finally came in. I think I showed this in my haul, the video before last. I am sure that you have seen this book somewhere on the internet, whether it be TikTok or YouTube. This one has been doing the rounds, and I can see why other people like this. Let me just tell you what it's about, and then I'll give you my thoughts. So this is about Vivi, and she is kind of a teenage witch, or now she's in her 20s, so I guess she's like a young adult witch. Back when Vivi was a teenager, she had her heart broken by another witch, and his name was Rhys, very Welsh themed if you didn't guess. And he is a Welsh boy who was going back home. His father had lined up a marriage for him and he didn't tell Vivi. And when she found out, things ended pretty badly, and her cousin put a curse on Rhys. So fast forward, I think like 10 years later, and he returns to the town. However, when he returns, things go very south. His magic is very off, and he doesn't understand why until he figures out that Vivi cursed him all those years ago. It is a very fun read, and I love the fact that this was set in Wales. I think this is the 3rd time I've said this now, but I don't know, it's very fun. I love the Welsh names, I love the Welsh places when Rhys visited home, but something about this book just didn't hit the mark for me. Maybe it's because this book received a lot of hype, I have no idea, but the storyline was just slightly lacking for me, and I think like the spicy scenes were just maybe a bit too cringy for my liking. I don't know, I feel like such a villain saying this because I know so many people adore this book, but I don't know, this was definitely maybe like a 3-star read for me. It wasn't awful, don't get me wrong, I can see why loads of people love this book, but for me it just was maybe like, I don't know, a little bit cringy, and I didn't love the storyline. Okay, moving along to the ebooks, which I finished in October. I first started with The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. This one was such a great read. I think I finished it in 2 days, and oh my goodness, I never want to be alone in the Highlands in my life. I gave this book 3 stars. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was like a fun read, but something about it just wasn't as gripping as I hoped it would be. And I had heard so many people love this book and said that it was a really great book to get you out of a reading slump. But for me, it was fun. It didn't put me in a reading slump, but I just expected a little bit more like intensity. I loved the characters. They were very interesting, especially one of the characters. If you've read it, I'm sure you'll know who I'm talking about. They were just very interesting, but yeah, I can't describe it. I guess that it really didn't grip me as much as I thought it would. So it was a really great read and I would recommend it, and it was fun nonetheless. Next, I moved on to Gothichana by Runix. So this book really had me stumped. I didn't know whether this book had like supernatural elements to it or what, but I can tell you that it does not. This book is about a girl called Corvina Clem, and her mother always just homeschooled her. She kept her very isolated from everybody else, and they were quite sufficient where they lived. So Corvina never really experienced life in the real world, and then one day she gets a letter inviting her to attend this really mysterious university called Verity. And at Verity University, nobody really knows what goes on. It's on top of a mountain, and all of the local people just think that things are a little bit suspicious there. There have been a few murders, and they don't really know too much about what goes on. This is where she meets her new roommate called Jade, and she finds out that Jade's previous roommate threw herself off the roof. So already we are thrown into like this mystery of like what happened to this girl, why did she kill herself? And then as things kind of unravel, we see that there's something causing all these murders and mysterious disappearances. I didn't really like it, if I'm being honest with you. I love the setting and I love the idea, but as we kind of unraveled the mysteries, it just fell flat. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to ruin it for a lot of people. I know that this has great reviews on Goodreads, but yeah, for me, I had to give this a 3-star, maybe like a 2.5. I hate to say that. I hate giving anything a 2-star, but this one just, I don't know, I had really high expectations, but the writing and the storyline kind of let it down. Next, I read Home Before Dark by Riley Sager, and oh my goodness, this book hit everything that I wanted in a thriller book. This one is about a girl called Maggie, and I think she's in her 20s now, maybe 24, and she's an interior designer. Now, when Maggie was younger, she did live in this house, which was in the middle of Vermont woods, and something happened in this house which made her family flee. I think they were only there for 20 days, but then they just disappeared from this house because something horrific had happened. Her father wrote this horror memoir detailing all these paranormal experiences which happened at the house while they were there. But Maggie can't remember anything happening. It's almost like her memory has a block around this 20 days. So flash forward to the present, and Maggie wants to return to the house after her father's passing, and she's going to redo the house, make it all nice, and then she wants to resell it. But when she gets there, some strange things happen, and a lot of the things which are mentioned in her father's book, she actually realises were not a lie, because she can see around her that they did exist. As we go along, things just get crazier and crazier, and then the twist at the end was so good. Oh my goodness, I actually can't get over how good this book was, and I was actually terrified reading this. I was walking on the treadmill, and even though there's a wall behind me, I kept looking behind me. It was just like chilling, but I really loved it. The description of the house and the setting was incredible. No surprises here. I gave this one 5 stars, and I just recommend this to everybody and anybody, especially if you are after like a thriller. This one is perfect. Finally, for my last ebook, I did end up reading Verity from Colleen Hoover, and this one was perfect. It was just the right amount of spooky. The beginning of the book, did not see that coming. It kind of set the tone, if I'm being honest, and I didn't really know where it was going to go from there. So not really a spoiler because it does happen in the first chapter. This woman just like walks outside in New York City, I think, and somebody just gets hit by a car and their body bits, blood, gets all over her. Oh my goodness, this is happening in the first chapter. But as we get into the book, it's a lot more of a psychological thriller. And I don't know, it was really great. It did remind me of those movies that would be on Sky sometimes. And it was very enjoyable. Really, really good. I did give this book 5 stars. As you can probably guess, I am a huge fan of Colleen Hoover as an author, and this book was no different. Those are all the books I read in October. So now I thought I would show you a few of the books which I'm planning on reading in November. Starting off with physical books, hopefully you can see here I have my Addicted series and my Calloway Sister series, but I do have 3 books from the Calloway Sister series which I haven't read yet. So that will be Fuel the Fire. I know that this one is Rose and Connor's story, like the second Rose and Connor story in the series, and then also Long Way Down. So this one might be Ryke and Daisy. Yes, I think it is. There is a definite reading order for this series, or for the 2 series together. So if you go online to the Krista and Becca Ritchie website, there's kind of like a layout of how they suggest reading the books. I absolutely loved the first 2 in the Calloway Sister series, the Kiss the Sky and Hot House Flower. So I am so excited to be back reading about these characters. Although I did love Lily and Lo in the Addicted series, these characters are also just as lovable. They have my heart, and I just don't know what to expect. I haven't seen any spoilers, but I've just seen so many people saying that they love this series, so I cannot wait to get into these, although these are chunky books. Like, Fuel the Fire is 550 pages, and Long Way Down is maybe a little bit longer. I think it is 630 pages. so these might take me a little bit longer to read. And then, even chunkier, is Some Kind of Perfect. So I guess this one is Calloway Sister series, an Addicted series epilogue novel, and a Calloway Sisters novel, spin-off of the Addicted series. Okay, so I guess this one is kind of summing everything up, maybe? Let me know if I'm wrong about that. But this one is, oh my goodness, let's see, 727 pages. So I definitely think these are going to be taking up a big chunk of my time in November, but it's got to be done. These characters, if you haven't read them, just the connection that you make with them is incredible, and honestly, the hype is well justified. I love these, kind of intimidating. Okay, moving along, this one might be slightly cheating because I have halfway listened to this book on audiobooks. So this one is The Hating Game. I know that so many people love this book and it has had a massive hype. So far, I do agree. I am in love with these characters. I think that the writing is so beautiful and I don't know, I'm just well invested. So hopefully this is going to be one that I finish in November. I know it definitely will be. This has a grumpy sunshine trope, enemies to lovers, just everything good is in this book. So can't wait to finish this. To be honest, I can definitely see myself rereading this book, but actually reading it this time instead of listening to it. Although the audiobook, I would highly recommend. I've never really been into audiobooks, but this one might have swayed me. Also, the cover is just really pretty. I love it. Speaking of pretty covers, this one is very similar. They are basically the same colour. This is the Kiss Quotient from Helen Huang. Huang? I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I also hear that this one is a great read. So I can see that this is about a girl called Stella and she has Asperger's. So she finds love and dating very confusing. So she enlists the help of a escort called Michael, and I think that they kind of form a relationship and maybe fall in love. This just looks so cute and I'm so excited to see how Asperger's is represented in this book. I have heard that it's done really well, so I can't wait. I will let you guys know my thoughts. A Colleen Hoover novel. Need I say any more? This one I have had staring at me on my shelf, so I just can't wait to read this. Colleen Hoover is just one of my favourite authors. I actually currently am reading one at the moment from her. I'll let you know what that is when we get onto ebooks. The cover is really beautiful and I don't know, I know I'll love it. It's Colleen Hoover. This month I am really trying to work my way through Colleen Hoover's backlist. So another one I picked up is Maybe Someday. Please let me know if this book is part of a series because I know that Colleen Hoover does have like a little mini series of like 3 books, maybe. I could be so wrong about this, but I think that this book might be the first one and I need to buy a few more books to finish it. But yeah, I'm so lost. I have no idea about that. I will definitely have to do some more research. I don't know too much about it, but I am very excited to give this one a read. Lastly, for my physical books, I did manage to get my hands on this one. It came in the day that I went to the bookshop. This is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I have heard so many people talking about this book. Honestly, like 99% of the books I pick up are because I've seen them on YouTube or TikTok. So I'm hoping that this one will join my long list of favourites. I think that this is more like a dark academia vibe, and I know that it's about like cults or secret societies at Yale, and that's all I really know about this book. I did try looking for this in the young adult section of the bookstore, but when I couldn't find it, it was because it was in the adult section, so I don't know what to expect. I don't know whether to expect this to be quite dark or what. I know that this one has supernatural themes and I just cannot wait to read it. Okay, as for my ebooks, which I'm hoping to read in November, I have started Layla. I'll pop it on the screen right here. Layla, again, from Colleen Hoover. Like I just said, I am trying to work my way back through her backlist, and it is so good so far. I don't want to say too much, but I don't know where this book is going to go. I don't know what it's going to be about exactly, but it's really intriguing, and I'm just enjoying it so far. Okay, the next book that I'm going to be reading in November, hopefully, is The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren, and I've heard so many people saying so many good things about this book. From what I can gather, this one is about a man who invents a test based on your DNA to let you know who your soulmate would be. And so this woman goes ahead and does this test, and her and the man who invented the soulmate equation get the highest match that there has ever been, and that's all I know. It sounds really good, and I'm sure it's going to be a good one. I do love Christina Lauren books, so I'm hoping that this one is going to be a really good read and I'm going to enjoy it. Finally, for this month, I would love to read The Love Hypothesis. This one I have seen everywhere, and I would like to pick up the paperback because I love the cover, but I really don't know too much about this. I know that it takes place in a lab, obviously from the front cover, but I don't know too much else, and I am just excited to go in and read this blind. I don't know what else to say. Hopefully we'll get around to reading this. I know that this month I have so many which I'm hoping to read, especially the end of the Calloway Sister series. That is kind of like my top priority. I would love to finish that series this year, and hopefully I will achieve that. Please let me know what you're going to be reading in November, and if you have any recommendations. Hopefully you can see that I do love like romance, maybe a little bit of dark academia is something I'm trying to get into. So just let me know if you think that I would love anything that you've read recently. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful morning or night wherever you are, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys!